Obsolete Components is a record label that we started 2 years ago with the basis of using obsolete instruments to make the tracks. So we're talking about a few older synthesizers that have interesting personalities. Things like the Emulator 2 or the Jupiter 8. Machines that are not really in fashion to use because of the fact that an analog signal is not always consistent. It's got something that's changing about it. It's kind of alive in that sense. It's much like someone's favorite violin or favorite guitar. It has something about it. Some of them are handmade, so they all still slightly age differently and have this organicness that is, you know, people don't associate that with electronic instruments usually. We made this compilation, we've done 2 so far, based on the fact that each artist is to choose a machine to create a track solely with one machine for every sound. This is the ARP 2600. I used this for my track on the last compilation. This machine is 1971. I've seen credits on certain albums, so, you know, ARP 2600, like Nine Inch Nails used it. And Depeche Mode, there's photos in their older record sleeves, and you see this thing sitting in the background, and of course you look at it and you're like, well, what is that? Like, it's just curious, you know, like I've always been very curious to see what it was. And a friend of mine had one sitting there and he's like, well, it's for sale, you know, if you want to purchase it. So I got as much money as I could together and purchased it right away. And it's a machine that certainly never gets boring because you can always do things to it. You can run sounds into it and process sounds. Like, it just can get out of control sounding. It has this lovely spring reverb in it. It's a little bit crazy, but I mean, it can make normal sounds, but you know, it's one of these machines that just can do weird things. I've had this thing for so many years that I've learned what all the functions are. When I first got it, I was a little bit overwhelmed by it because it just, you know, has this routing stuff on it that can sort of, if you get enough patch cords hooked up to it, you can lose thought of how it's set up to work. So it can be pretty amazing because of that, but also like, okay, well, what am I doing here? You know, I've lost sight of where my sound is. You know, some of these other synthesizers do bread and butter, bass, strings, whatever, but this thing, if you want something odd, it sure can do that. It's never leaving. It's very, very much a part of our sound. I think we want to make sounds that are interesting, that people aren't really hearing. I mean, I think we want the music to be expressive and interesting and artistic and pushing boundaries, meaning not worrying about making money and being more interested in the art of the actual process of making the tracks and making it unique.